Penfold! Looking like they're going to advance. They have done it. GG! And Dunk Train phase shifted in. He's also going to fall.
Massive amounts of damage.
On the top of this, it looks as though they're going to be able to take it down.
God.
The remaining shots are going to be able to take this core down.
No!
Hold on, fucking 4% left.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome here to the July North America Open for Heroes of the Storm. I am your host, Solid Jake Kalinske, and I am joined by my co-caster, Corey Kubihover, and our analyst, Sean Jester Delaney.
Really excited to be back once again so we can see the top 8 duking it out. Maybe we will have a new victor today. Really excited to see how it's going to unfold.
Well, we got a lot of old blood, a few new bloods now coming into this. Of course, the returning champions from June as well. Tempo Storm is going to be in that roster. The top 8 can go anywhere today.
It really can, and we're going to get to that very soon. But before we do, let's take a look at the competition overview happening here. It all starts with the Open tournaments. This is the second one, followed by the Americas Championship happening at the end of the summer, and then it all builds up into the World Championship happening towards the end of this year.
So the Americas Championship, let's talk a little bit about what regions are going to be part of that, because as we saw back in June, we had one team advance, Tempo Storm. Today, July Open, 2 teams are going to be crowned with those celebration crowns to go into the North America Open, and of course 2 more teams there in August as well. Those 5 teams to go head-to-head with the champions of Latin America, Southeast Asia, and Australia and New Zealand as well to create the Americas region.
That's right. In the Americas region, we'll have 8 teams competing there, but only 2 can advance to the World Championship at BlizzCon 2015. But we'll have 6 other teams from various regions. We'll have 1 from Korea, 2 from the Europe Championships, 2 from China, and 1 from Taiwan as well to round out the top 8 at that World Championship.
And on that note, there's, of course, global competition happening, and you can sign up yourself. Just head to heroesofthestorm.com/esports, and you can sign up to compete for free.
Okay, and guys, head on over to social media, follow us at Blizz Heroes, and use the hashtag HeroesWC to join in on the conversation. We want to hear what you guys think about these games that are going to be coming up.
And Kubi, why don't you tell us a little bit about the upcoming matches that we have for today?
That's right. So we are going to be starting off with Tempo Storm up against KingPlato Sumtango. Following that, we are going to have Cloud9 Vortex up against the Goon Squad. Following that, for our 3rd match of the day, it is going to be Complexity versus Cognitive. And then for our 4th game, we are going to have 2Arc versus Cloud9 Maelstrom.
All right, so what's a tournament without prizes, gentlemen? I mean, like, these guys are going to be playing for some of the biggest cash payouts here for Heroes of the Storm just in general. So the July Open breakdown, let's take a quick look at that, because already we've had 9th to 32nd. They are not going to be here, but they did get Battle.net credit. It's all now ramping up, $800 for 5th to 8th, going into 3rd and 4th with $1,500, and then 2nd, $4,000, but it's all about the money. First place today, well, this weekend, I should say, $8,500 to go home, and of course one of the big seeds going into those American regionals.
It's so awesome having the prize pool just ramping up. Last month it was $15,000, $25,000 for this weekend, and then it'll be $35,000 for August.
Unbelievable.
Really
So
incredible, but they're going to have to make it through that bracket to actually get that money.
That is true, Mr. Jake. So let's take a look at that bracket, because if you guys were here in June, you might see some similarities. But for those of you that weren't, we're going to talk about double elimination. So into the top, the upper bracket area, this is where we're going to be starting. Now, this is a best of 3. All of these games today you are going to be seeing are best of 3. But there is some saving grace. If you happen to lose, you will come down here into the lower bracket. And here you will face off against those that didn't win in the upper bracket as well. So we're going to have 2 sets of onward momentum. The winner's bracket will move forward into the top here, as well as the loser or the lower bracket down here into the bottom. This will continue on. So if you lose out for the upper, you come into the lower. You lose out in the lower, you're out of the tournament. You will take your cash, you go home, we will salute you for your service, and we will continue on. The big money grand finals, that is going to be the winner here of not only the upper, but the lower bracket, and that is going to be a weighted finals as well. So there's a lot of pressure for the lower bracket champions to win.
That's right, Jester. Thanks for that. So we have a double elimination bracket. We also have a double ban system that we actually got to see debuted in the June Open. But if you guys didn't catch that action, we'll explain it to you right here. So we will have a standard first set of bans for either team to start off the picks and bans process. Team 1, with that first pick, they will get the single choice. Team 2 will be able to pick up a pair of heroes at this so they can grab some of those strong pairs that we see so often in competitive play. Team 1 will be able to grab another pair before we move into the interesting part, and that's where we have 2 additional bans, one from each team, and this is a good chance for those teams to sort of disrupt some of the strategy that they already are starting to see develop between those heroes. So then the teams will continue to pick in a 2-2-1 kind of process until they round out their 5 heroes with 2 bans apiece. It makes for some really interesting games.
We've got the double elim, we've got the double ban, and we have 2 teams that are getting ready to play in the first match of the tournament. It's Tempo Storm versus PoolPlato Tangos. Now, both of these teams did, in fact, qualify for the June North American Open, so they're returning. But Tempo Storm, they were the victors of the entire event.
They were. Let's take a closer look at what makes Tempo Storm such a dominant team. We can see that they are actually undefeated at this point. They haven't dropped any Battlegrounds just yet, so they're at that 4-0. They really like the Rhaegar and Jaina, and we see Jaina played a lot, but I think you can probably say that Tempo Storm has sort of been really owning that Rhaegar style.
Yeah, it's all about Dreadnaught on the Fight Dog, on the Rhaegar. He just absolutely gets a lot of pick with these teams, but their opponents, they're no slouches here either. If we take a look at some of the statistics backing PoolPlato Tangos, as he said, they are a returning team. This is going to be a match of 2 of the Old Bloods from June, but they do have a few losses to their name. They play a lot of Vala, Johanna, Tomb of the Spider Queen, who've seen actually shoot up tremendously when it comes to some of the preference there for those maps. And, you know, these guys, they do have some significant talent on their team.
They certainly do, but we can't forget about our sponsors. The Heroes of the Storm North America Road to BlizzCon is brought to you by NVIDIA and Gigabyte, and I couldn't be more excited about it, Kubi.
Yeah, so big thanks to those guys for being able to bring us some of this great action that we are going to see in the top 8. But Jake, I think without further ado, we do have a draft ready for these 2 teams. Actually, no. Maybe a little bit.
Just about. But let's talk a little bit more about these 2 teams in general. Now, Tempo Storm, they're very much a fan favorite. They're largely considered to be the #1 team in North America, possibly the world, but we really haven't seen that stage happen quite yet. But PoolPlatos, they're like we talked about. They actually have 2 players that played in Heroes of the Dorm. They made top 4 there.
Yes.
Now they're actually qualifying for the 2nd time for this largest stage here in July. What do you think they're going to be able to do to kind of improve their result, maybe get the top 3, securing them a spot in the regionals?
Well, just like you said, Jake, I mean, we had 2 team members there from the Heroes of the Dorm. Fantastic collegiate tournament, a lot on the line there. And nobody really gave Boston that time of day. They said, you know, Boston, they're not even going to get out of that, you know, top 64, top 32, but they made it to the top 4. So after that taste of blood, they came back here into June, top 8, faced off against some of the best talent here. I think this could be their strongest showing yet.
Yeah, and the other thing I have to mention, too, to get into this qualifier spot for this top 8, you have to be an undefeated team, and that is no easy task. There was over 110 teams, I think, that signed up for this qualifier tournament, and the fact that these teams are all in top 8, you have to be a strong team, and I think that any of these teams in the top 8 could easily show an upset over Tempo Storm, last month's champions.
So going a little bit further back into history, Tempo Storm was originally known as Symbiote Gaming. They had a lot of dominance for a long time, but then Cloud9 Maelstrom kind of took the reins from them. But when Tempo Storm returned to dominance, a lot of it was due to the pickup of Zuna. And I would like to talk more about Zuna as a player. Now, he's one of their assassins. He does lean towards the melee assassins fairly frequently. But do you think he's really what's kind of shifted their momentum in these events?
Yeah, it's hard to ignore the addition of Zuna to the team as, you know, sort of why they are having a great dominant performance. Obviously, the other 4 members of the team are very, very strong players, but it seems like that cohesiveness is really, really evident. We can actually take a look at Zuna here, that spotlight, and he is from Arizona, so not too far away. I think he actually just moved in to the Tempo Storm team house, so they have all 5 of their members there.
Yeah, and it's just been awesome to see that all unfolding with him switching to the team because he played in BlizzCon last year. He actually played under the brand of Cloud9, and it's cool to see just the trading of the hats, if you will.
There has been quite a few roster changes going back and forth, ever since BlizzCon. I mean, at that time, we only had one Cloud9 team, for example, and then after that, after such a strong showing, they were able to split into two, and we have seen players go back and forth. But Zuna, if I recall, Jake, Zuna actually started with WCA.
With Tempo Storm, yes, that was his debut, and that was actually in this exact studio where they 3-0'd Cloud9 Maelstrom. Really impressive. But on the opposing side, we do have Apauloh. Now, Apauloh is really leading the charge with PlaTo some tangos. We can see that he is in Seattle, Washington, and he plays a lot of Vala.
Yeah, I think actually KingPlato lives with him. I think those two guys live together. They both go to Boston College, and he's in the honors program. So kudos to him for that. And also his little sister attends Boston College as well. So a lot of the family out in the BC area. Always cool to see. But yeah, like I was saying, these guys are a strong team, so do not count them out at this point.
Considering that we are from Massachusetts, I have to support them a lot myself.
How could we not?
It's for
I'm
the
going to leave
homeland.
you two to that bubble.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah, Canada myself.
Hey, yeah, we do have a Canadian team in here, right? Yes, the Goon Squad.
Yes.
I believe so.
The Goon Squad is, they've been actually in quite a few tournaments lately. There's been a lot of tournaments for the amateurs. They've been doing some of the ESL stuff there as well. Them getting to the top 8 is actually really hype because now, again, some new blood, some old blood. But Goon Squad coming in has really shown that their practice over the last few weeks, those few months, they've been together a long time now. And seeing them finally here into a top 8 where there's actually cash money on the line, that is actually extremely exciting for them.
Yeah, really excited to see Goon Squad play later today, but I want to keep talking about Tempo Storm, and actually their captain, their shot caller, that's Mr. Wade Dreadnaught Penfold, and he is really making a name for himself here in Heroes of the Storm. He is known for his very cohesive, we're going to make a call, we're going to go mega aggro into your base and try to take out your keep, your fort, like the flip of a switch.
Yeah, it's a very, very defined style. You can almost like pinpoint the moment where they're just like they're all on the same page. Probably don't even need to make a call at this point for the team. They are just that in sync when those types of calls. And it's very, very exciting to watch.
All right, so before we do hop on over to the draft, I just have to get some shots fired. Dreadnaught has told me multiple times that he is a far better juggler than you. Now, you're a jester. You juggle.
Wow.
He just bought juggling knives, and I just want to know, have you ever bought juggling knives and used them yourself?
Torches.
Torches?
Torches.
Knives is cooler.
Fire, man.
Yeah, how can you say that?
I'm sorry. I can do that in the dark. I can do that in a room. I can do that anywhere. With fire, it's clearly better than knives.
Well, at BlizzCon, we're going to have a juggle-off between Jester and Dreadnaught, and that's going to be awesome. But without further delay, let us hop on over to the draft here for game number 1 between Tempo Storm and PlaTo some tangos.
Okay. And we do have the battleground. It is going to be Sky Temple. Probably one of the more neutral maps. Probably not quite the most for, I would say, the opinion of most of the professional teams. But Sky Temple is interesting in the fact that having the control over very small portions of the temples that will pop up between the lanes is very, very critical. And we're going to probably see some emphasis on the mule abilities. So when those supports get grabbed, we'll be sure to call those out.
The mule was definitely actually an MVP on this map. But first pick, first ban is going to be awarded to Tempo Storm. They are higher up in those seedings, but Kaeyoh is going to be out first, Zeratul as the response. So PlaTo some tangos as the second ban. This is a very common ban. You're probably going to see it a lot this weekend as well. If Zeratul is not going to be on the board, it's usually going to be because the second pick team banned it out.
Yeah, it's a pretty common thing, and this will usually be followed up with one of those big assassins like Jaina. Let's actually take a closer look at Jaina to explain why she is so impactful on these games. She has a really powerful kit with Frostbite being her trait. Anytime you hit an enemy hero with one of your abilities, it actually applies the trait to them, slowing them into doing additional damage with the rest of her kit. So Frostbolt, that's just a straight skill shot that she has. Blizzard, it rains down in 2 crashes in an area of effect. And Cone of Cold, well, it's just a cone in front of her, hitting everything.
Yeah, there's a reason that Tempo Storm really likes this hero and why she is so commonly picked up very early on in the draft, and she just can deal so much damage, especially with that trait. Once you start stacking those abilities together, you get that bonus damage, and it's a lot of teams do build around that, making sure they can protect the Jaina.
All right, KingPlato some Tangos. This is the only picks that they're going to get before that second ban phase comes in. And this is where, if you actually went for a double assassin, you might find yourself a little bit short in terms of a warrior or support later on. Here, they actually do pick up a warrior and a support, although it's likely not to be only the solo support of Tyrande. So she is likely also then to get a little bit more of a healing buddy to go with her later. But this also sets up KingPlato some Tangos with the Mirrodin and the Tyrande for a great roam squad early, and this also could lead us into a melee assassin for them after the second ban phase.
Yeah, this really puts that threat of Butcher on the table in a lot of ways. He's really had a lot of extra presence in this new patch, but Tempo Storm going to respond with Johanna. Johanna really also puts the presence of maybe a big Asmodee composition on the table.
Yeah, it could be. It's probably not the strongest map. Of course, you know,
bingo.
let's talk a little bit about Asmodee and why we're going to see a lot of drafts actually revolve around him. He has a very particular talent that is grabbed at level 1, which actually powers up the Globe of Annihilation. It's called Taste for Blood. Every time Asmodee takes down a minion as the last shot with that Globe of Annihilation, he powers up the ability up to 500 additional bonus damage. So that becomes a very, very strong late game, long range ability that teams have to play around. And we'll see that they actually will pick heroes, Johanna in this case, that are good at wave clearing to help assist Asmodee in that.
Yeah, it's very good synergy with those two heroes, but the draft will continue with the second ban phase, and actually KingPlato some Tangos, they know Dreadnaught likes to lean toward that Rhaegar, and they're going to remove him from the game.
So no Rhaegar means that it's going to be very hard to kind of do bit more burst healing and distributed healing. Like, not only does the chain heals, and you can bounce them around with Rhaegar, but at the same time, it's great single target heals with the Ancestral. So the threat is off the table, and Tempo Storm said, we see what you're doing there with Tyrande, and then we're not going to give you the Butcher. So that comp is dead in the water. Kerrigan is actually still on the table. So is the Illidan. And you don't get to see a lot of Illidan these days because of the recent changes to him, but it's still on the table.
And seeing that Uther's picked up, Kerrigan actually could make a lot of sense here.
Yeah, and so the big synergy there is with Uther, he does have the Divine Shield, and a lot of teams are starting to lean towards making sure they do have those melee assassins in their compositions. Having the Divine Shield to make sure that there's that 3 seconds of invulnerability is so important to make sure those melee assassins stay alive.
All right, so Zagar is now on the table there from KingPlato some Tangos, and because Uther is already picked and Rhaegar was the ban, that will lead us into a Malfurion here for Tempo Storm. So great AoE sustain. We're going to have to keep an eye on exactly what kind of build we're going to see from Malfurion, but going back to the Asmodee, this is not only Jaina and Johanna, which is almost the dream team setup for level 1 for the Asmodee. Now we got Malfurion, and the recent changes to him says Moonburn as a level 1 talent. Extra damage against mercenaries and creeps. That also goes a long way to stacking for Asmodee.
Look at this, so
very
much long
sustainable
range.
comp
Yeah,
too.
very sustainable, and they have so much long range. Just kind of, stay away. We'll make sure that the Johanna's out in front, sort of peeling, providing a lot of crowd control for the back line. And it's going to be, the onus will be on KingPlato some Tangos to get in there and to try to disrupt that back line.
It's not going to be a melee after all.
Nope.
Looks like that most highly picked hero from KingPlato some Tangos, Alvala, will actually round out the comp. So no melees. I'm a little curious. Kerrigan was still on the table, didn't get it. Butcher was actually a ban, but going forward, it's a lot of range for KingPlato.
Yeah. The question is, though, who has the stronger range? And I would say that, it feels like Tempo Storm, especially if they can get to the later game. We talked about Asmodee and that, the Taste for Blood ability on his Globe of Annihilation. And if they, KingPlato lets the game go on for too long, it is going to be so hard to dodge all those shots. And yes, Uther is good with the burst healing, but I'm not sure they have enough to put threat onto Tempo Storm to try to disrupt their game plan.
It's going to be difficult, but they do have that triple combo potential between Murden with the Stormbolt, the Lunar Flame Hunter's Mark combo out of Tyrande, and then the Hammer of Justice from Uther. So if they can find a single target to try to burn them down, Malfurion doesn't really have the burst healing. He doesn't have... Predictive Shield isn't what it used to be, and he lost it in general. And his burst healing, well, there's no Rhaegar, there's no Divine Shield, none of that on the table today.
But there is a Tyrande to go with the Uther. She will be able to supplement the healing there of that Uther with her own, especially level 13. We actually see a lot of overflowing light. It was changed a few patches ago. It kind of, now that we're seeing more and more Tyrande because of the Butcher, because of the melees and the strength of them that they actually bring to the table, you could actually go into the overflowing light. At the same time, you could also now go into Shrink Ray. And you actually have a setup here for a double Shrink Ray.
Yeah, and that's a really powerful talent here. The other thing we have to consider, this is Sky Temple. We have to talk about Mule. And Mule is available on Malfurion, available on Tassadar, but I don't believe there's one available for KingPlato.
Tyrande.
Yes,
Oh,
you're right.
that's right.
Tyrande does have the mule. Now, the reason the mule is so important on this map is because the temples do consistent structured damage to your forts, your keeps, your walls, and it's something that you can't dodge it. As long as the enemy team is occupying that objective, that damage is going to be applied to your structures. So having the mule to heal those buildings back up becomes a very, very important part of drafting and really like where you're applying those mules, etc. And we're going to see that to play a large part in the strategy for this map.
There's one more point here to go for Azmodan as well. So if you talk about Azmodan, we always talk about the stacking game, his taste for blood, the Orb of Annihilation, how Johanna and Jaina really help him out with that. But he's still the only hero in the game with a global promote. At level 4, the General of Hell, he can put it in a lane where there's no enemy presence. He can push it out and gain a lot of value, especially if it last hits a lot of things. But at the same time, as it keeps pushing, if they're tied up in a fight in the bottom, for example, and he puts it top, for a prolonged period of time, you could find yourself minus a fort, minus a gate, some keep damage later on as well. It is a huge split pushing potential, and all the while, he's in one lane, he's orbing another, he has a promote in a third. The global presence here is actually quite significant.
Yeah, it's one of the bigger strengths that Tempo has, but let's actually take a look at some of Tempo Storm's team strengths.
I think just experience overall. We've been around for much, much longer than a lot of the teams that have been popping up lately.
The change of the top 8 and the difference from what is, I guess, quote unquote expected is actually really exciting.
We just try to play our game to the best of our ability and, react to anything that happens game 1, avoid the curveballs, and just make the other team play our game.
Hopefully it brings new strategies and just develops the scene overall for North America and pushes us more and more ahead.
Guys are just anxious to see the game continue to grow, and they've done a great job here in North America. They stream a lot, they play incredibly well, and they're really doing a nice job making a name for themselves.
Yeah, they right now are probably the undisputed top team in NA. So based on the compositions, I would say that PoolPlato, some Tangos, they need to be aggressive with their composition. But do you think they have enough damage, or maybe mobility is the better question in terms of what? So we have the Tyrande with the Lunar Flare, pairs well with Muradin. Do they have enough damage to follow up on those stuns to move forward and put pressure on Tempo Storm's backline?
Well, a lot of it with at least an early roaming comp with the Muradin, with the Tyrande, stun lock. That's the big name of that game. You keep somebody in place, they can't leave, you let your damage just kind of wear it down on them. Usually that would be great, but in this case, we have so many survivable heroes, at least early on for Tempo Storm. Azmodan has an incredibly huge hit point pool. Johanna can be unstoppable and stop that CC lock. Tassadar can actually shift out of it and become invulnerable and invisible at the same time. So if Tempo Storm spreads those out, it's going to be very hard for a roam comp, at least early, to kind of capitalize on anything, especially since at the minute 30 mark, we're going to have Temple spawning.
I want to put the challenge onto PoolPlato some Tangos with this composition. We talked about Tempo Storm needing to sort of drag out the game as long as possible so that they can get up to those 500 stacks. I want to see PoolPlato some Tangos put a lot of aggression in the early game. I want to see them have a lead going into level 10 if they can do it with an aggressive style. And this will put a lot of pressure onto Tempo Storm. But more importantly, it's about taking those temples. And if you can really chain together capturing those temples, you can end the game much, much earlier than Azmodan will need time to be able to get that ability up to full power. So I think that really needs to be the name of the game for PoolPlatos.
We'll see if they are able to do that, but let's take a closer look at the roster of Tempo Storm and the 5 guys that are playing on that squad. Of course, we know they've been here in multiple events. They've been playing around a lot. We see Tassadar will be played by Kaeyoh, Malfurion played by Dreadnaught, Arthelon rocking the Azmodan, Johanna going to be played by Soldier, and rounding up the team is going to be Jaina played by Zuna.
Well, yeah, we've seen Zuna make a lot of really cool plays with Jaina, especially once he gets that Bolt of the Storm. Has made a lot of crazy plays. Most notably at 16, we'll probably see the root picked up on shield targets for the Cone of Cold, and that is like a blink forward, throw down a ton of abilities, root them in place, and you can blow up some heroes very quickly with it.
So you talked a little bit earlier, Kubi, about playing to the end game, and now we've talked about Azmodan, now you're talking about Jaina, and Jaina is only going to get that blink at level 20, which, more or less, is somewhere going to be in the 15 to 25 minute mark. Depends on how a lot of the team fights go, a lot of how the results are going to be after the dust settles. But, the Jaina, as you said, she blinks forward, she roots up in place. You can't do anything about that unless you have a cleanse on your team, and one cleanse against, 2 or 3 teammates that actually get hit, that's going to be actually just you're going to pick one person to survive out of that, because guess what's going to follow that immediately? It's going to be an orb, and that's Orb of Annihilation from Azmodan is probably going to hurt 15 to 25 minutes into the game, because these guys know how to stack. I mean, this is the team that holds the record right now in a competitive match for the stacks of 11 minutes. Now, I'm not going to say we're going to see that record shattered at all, but at the same time, more or less in around the 20-minute mark is when we're about to see that 500 come through, and that is going to be a very painful combo.
It is, but we're going to have to see if PoolPlatos can mitigate some of that damage. Let's actually take a closer look at the roster of PoolPlato Some Tangos. We do see they have bkid, who's going to be playing as Muradin. Tyrande, played by KingPlato. Ocher, played by Mookiez. It's going to be Apauloh rocking the Zagara, and Vala going to be played by Prismaticism.
So Apauloh and Zagara, that is 100% like his pick right there. He is really well known, at least whenever I run into him in Hero League, he's always almost playing Zagara at this point. So he knows what to do. Zagara as herself is a great duelist, one-on-one, probably going to be in the bottom lane, at least early on, because the 2 top temple spawns is not really going to be kind of the big thing for her. She's likely to stay in the bottom and push and use the duelist nature to just try to bully out any opponent if there is still an opponent in that lane. Now, if I had to guess, probably going to be a Tassadar there from Tempo Storm to hold down the fort, and he's likely not going to be up in that team fight either. But still, Zagara, a beast in the lane.
So they have a ton of damage between Zagara and Vala, and they have a lot of lockdown. But we talked about Azmodan, we talked about Tassadar. Who do you think the target has to be for them early game to try to eliminate? Because, well, Tassadar is going to keep escaping. Johanna is going to be near impossible to lock down.
I think it's got to be, you got to look at Jaina. I think she's definitely the target that if you can take her out early, that is going to provide a lot of momentum. She has a very strong base kit, just can do a lot of damage output from the early game. And I think that's what they need to kind of buy time for Azmodan. So I think that would probably be the target to look for.
Well, it's got to be a Jaina or a Malfurion. I mean, the Malfurion early, not going to have cleanse, not before level 7 at any rate. And so, I mean, both heroes can actually respond with some kind of counter crowd control, the roots, as well as those slows from Jaina. But at the same time, they don't have those innate hit points. They don't have those innate escapes. So yes, I would go that it will be a Malfurion or a Jaina.
The other thing we have to consider here is Uther is one of the few heroes in the game that can actually deny some of the farm on Azmodan. With the Wave of Light, he can heal up his own minions, which will prevent some of those stacks going off for Azmo, because really he has to get the final takedown on the minions with the Globe of Annihilation to get the bonus stacks, and if they don't fall due to the heal, well, it really helps quite a bit.
Yeah, you mentioned supports as well, and there's been a lot of changes to supports in this most recent patch. Most notably, I would say, is that most of the healers, actually all of them, the main healers all have some kind of cleanse now on their kit. So that's going to mean that Malfurion does have that. And once we hit level 7, I would fully expect, well, I don't know, there's that. There's Mule too on the same level. So things to consider.
All right, guys, but without further delay, we do have the first game of the day here on Sky Temple. And on the left side, that is in fact Tempo Storm. We've already seen the roster. We know who's here, and I'm just super excited to see this game unfold. But let's talk a bit more about Sky Temple.
Yeah, well, just real quick, we can see that there is a PoolPlato Some Tango on the right side of the map. So now we know who's playing, who's in this game. But you're right, Sky Temple, this is an important thing. About a minute and a half into the game, we will see that first objective pop up. And that is going to be in the middle and the top side of the map. And both teams are going to be definitely jockeying for position there to make sure that they can hold control. It's kind of like a King of the Hill style objective, making sure that you hold position on those temples.
Look at PoolPlato. They have all 5 members just kind of squishing together in one bush, trying to find an early takedown, but they will need to split across the map to make sure they don't miss on too much. So here, the Lunar Flare does connect, and that should be very close takedown on Zuna, but no, he just, no, the multi-shot will be enough. First takedown, only 40 seconds into the game.
That's the kind of play I want to see from PoolPlato, though. I was talking about aggressive. We talked about a couple potential targets, Jaina being one of them. I think it makes a lot of sense. We could see Malf. Tassadar is going to be a little difficult to take down, and Azmodan has the huge HP pool, but it's all about making sure you get those early takedowns to get the level lead, and I think that's going to be important moving into the mid-game for PoolPlatos.
Yeah, it's going to be very crucial. We do see trying to get those stacks here a little bit early on the Globe of Annihilation. Dreadnaught has trying to put these scouting drones down to make sure he has vision on any of those potential roams that are going to happen very frequently in the early portions of this game.
So we'll be sort of keeping a good eye on Azmodan and Johanna, whoever is nearby to help stack. We can see there's a great example of how that sort of play works. We do have the Knight Takes Pawn ability for... Oh, hold on a second. Yes, Zuna once again is going to be the target. Does get the Hunter's Mark, and the damage is going to be enough. That is the second time that Zuna has been taken down. Not necessarily because of the player's fault. I think it's just a targeted. We're looking at this hero in particular and trying to say we need to isolate this person and take them down. It seems as though we do have a bit of a pause. Maybe an additional technical difficulty. We'll get that sorted out for you guys.
Yes, sometimes the hotkeys have been reset, it looks like, so they just need to correct that very quickly. Unfortunate to have that happen, but we'll get this game going again very soon. But Zuna, like you mentioned, has fallen twice this far in the game.
2 times.
We talked about the roaming compositions. We mentioned that Jaina is going to be one of those targets. Do you think he just needs to play more passively?
Yeah, for sure. It's gonna. We said it before we even got into this game. It's gonna be Mouth, and it's gonna be Jaina. One of those two is going to get picked off. So thus far, PoolPlatos is doing a really good job. We just need to see that consistency as we move through the mid game, and that's gonna be important. Sometimes, maybe Tempo Storm's just like, all right, we just woke up a little bit early. We got to kind of get in there, just sort of get warmed up. Maybe that's the case. Maybe PoolPlatos is really onto a really good strategy to sort of put a lot of pressure onto Tempo Storm.
All right, well, we're going to see that happen very soon at the best of their ability. They're just getting those hotkeys corrected at this point in time, and we'll be going again very soon. But in the late game, though, we have to talk about level 10. Once you get those heroic abilities, who do you think has the upper hand here? Because there's a lot of power on both sides. Of course, heroic abilities are quite powerful.
Yes, they are. Let me think about this for a second. We've got Blackpool, and that's going to be a lot of even more range damage. Just powers up all of Azmodan's abilities. His All Shell Burn, Globe of Annihilation, we've been talking about that. We'll have Water Elemental for Jaina, and even the stuns for the Blessed Shield for Johanna. So there is a lot of peel there. And I think that maybe on the PoolPlato side, I'm not really feeling that either side actually has a really large advantage. I don't know. What do you think?
I like Tempo Storm's team fight in the late game a little bit better myself, just because the amount of zoning and control they have over the battlefield with the poke from all these ranged assassins, Jaina, and of course the Tassadar and Azmodan. But the temples have spawned here, so we have the middle and the top temple available for the first spawn of the game. And we can see PoolPlato, they have control of the watchtower as well, giving them so much vision on the map.
It is important to have that control over the rotations on the map between these temples. We can already see the Zagara's kind of getting creeped up in the bottom lane to make sure that she is safe to any kind of rotations to her. But again, it's all about these control of these temples. We do have mid under control from PoolPlato, and top is going to be controlled by Tempo Storm for the time being. Prismaticism looking to just apply some pressure.
Yeah, and he's doing a nice job with that, just kind of like making sure he's in the top lane to soak, maybe poking at them, just forcing them back, doing a little bit of light damage. But we do see the middle temple has expended the rest of its charges, so there's going to be a rotation here attempted on Arthelon. The stun will go out. Lunaflare follow-up not even going to be available at this point in time, so Arthelon will walk away. But in the top lane, we see Prismaticism getting hit by the root of Dreadnaught. In the front line, it is Johanna, but Mookiez able to rotate with the heals of Uther.
Countering with a little bit of aggression on their own, but Mookiez, yes, the body blocks are very, very strong at the moment. Soldier falling to about a quarter of his HP. Some of the members of his team are actually a little bit too low to help contest, and yeah, Johanna's going to end up falling. Soldier a bit out of position.
Very early in this game, it is 3-0 in terms of the takedowns, but Tempo Storm has had a slightly superior soak. Azmodan really hasn't left that middle lane, while as minions have gone down without one of the players of PoolPlato's present to soak the experience. So you can notice it's very even right now.
Yeah. And it's again, there's a lot of pressure on PoolPlatos to make sure that they can have some kind of experience lead. At the very least, keep up. I mean, Tempo Storm, they are such a strong team, and to just be able to keep up an experience, I think that will also be a good win. But they need to put pressure on in that early game.
Well, at this point in time, we've been seeing the Azmodan farm up decently. He's got 50 bonus damage on that Globe of Annihilation, and that will continue to empower itself throughout the game when he gets those takedowns.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of things on the map that are going to be distracting for Azmodan. There's the objective to make sure that you're rotating there. There's actually a fair amount of space between the lanes. And this is why, it's not the strongest of Azmodan maps. We usually, oh yes, look at that.
And that's going to really hurt his farm too. You were mentioning, that's going to slow him down. Falling, that's the ultimate way to slow him down.
Yeah, that's a pretty big distraction, as it would turn out. Okay, so continued rotations. I really like this from PPST. It kind of seems like they've done their homework. They know that Tempo Storm has sort of been shying away from the melee assassins. This means that they're not probably going to have the most aggressive early games, and they just said, okay, we'll make sure we have a little bit of an unconventional roam squad in the early game. and make sure that we can put the pressure on Tempo Storm.
Yeah, so far, so good. The bottom temples aren't too far away from spawning, but we do see the mercenary camps are starting to be collected on the right side of the map. Johanna contesting them, trying to buy time for the team, but with Hunter's Mark and the stun combo, that's going to be way too much damage. He has to back out of here, and I'm not sure if he's going to get away, Kubi.
I think he might be able to. Oh, Muradin, played by bkid, is going to make sure he says otherwise, and there was a nice globe, but to try to hold some of the members of PPST back, not going to be successful. Jake, look at the takedown counter at this point. We're 5-0.
Yeah, this is actually rather impressive. KingPlato starting to get a slightly larger experience lead, and if they do hit level 10 first, they're going to have too much power for Tempo Storm to contest this bottom temple.
Okay, we talked about mules being a possibility. We do have one picked up on either side. Tyrande grabbed it at level 7, and it's actually going to be Tassadar instead of Malfurion, who opted to go for the cleanse. So we said the cleanse is going to be a big deal. We do have one on either side for Malf and Uther. So look for that. If someone gets stunned out and then they start walking out of those stuns, it's probably because of that cleanse.
Just shows the power of those kind of talents, Mule and Cleanse, so impactful on the game in general. But the bottom temple, we mentioned it being under control of KingPlato, and that's exactly what's happening. Temple's from trying to fight and catch up in experience, but it's not going to go too well for them as they're all in the bottom lane.
Yeah, putting a lot of effort into making sure they can hold control of this temple. They do have it for the time being, so Tempo Storm will take that as a win, and they're kind of actually pushing KingPlato's back. But look at the levels. I think they're just kind of waiting to make sure they can get some soak, make sure they hit level 10 before Tempo Storm, and then rush in as soon as they hit that experience.
Yeah, getting that one tower in the bottom half is going to help, but yes, it's so very close for KingPlato to hit level 10, and that's going to be a timing window in which Tempo has to leave. Zuna is now a bit out of position. The Condemn going forward to buy time for him, but level 10, it's so close. Jaina does go down. That will hit level 10 for them. Tempo Storm has to retreat here.
The gun's been fired. The races have started. They are moving in, and Kaeyoh is getting stunned out. We do see the Starfall just to try to cover his position. Yeah, it's so difficult to take down those Tassadars, but the Strafe's actually going to be enough, and the Divine Shield onto Vala, played by Prismaticism. Well done from PPST. 7 takedowns to 0 now.
An incredible dominant start that nobody really would have expected here. KingPlato, as we mentioned, they're trying to make a name for themselves, and this is the best way to do it. Come out with guns blazing against Tempo Storm. Very nice start, but Tempo about to hit that level 10. Not only is this going to give the entire team a lot more power, but this is really going to assist Arthelon in the farming of the stacks and Globe of Annihilation.
So we're about 7 minutes into the game. Only 124 bonus stacks. And I say only. The teams have gotten a lot better at sort of setting up ways to farm, especially now that Johanna's been added into the game with that Night Takes Upon ability. I would say that PPST has done a great job slowing down Arthelon's stacking ability.
Yeah, they really have. I mean, that one takedown was helpful, but this will be the first takedown of the game by Tempo Storm. Getting one on the board, and even Zagara spent her heroic ability Maw there. Kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, and no battle momentum either, so that's a fairly long cooldown, at least 100 seconds, and she opted to go for the rapid incubation, so that's just sort of a stylistic choice for the Zagara players, and a lot of pressure actually in the bottom lane for Tempo Storm.
Yeah, they just want to. They know they've applied a bit of damage to that bottom lane, and they also know that it's very likely the enemy team was taking their bruisers, and that's exactly what we see. Bruisers marching down the top lane. Malfurion will have to deal with them, but we do see the rotation happening onto Kaeyoh, played by Tassadar.
Okay, here it goes. The long sort of obstacle course for Tassadar to get out. Honestly, no, there's no abilities at 13 and 16 to try to get him out. You know, the
Dimensional Warp, the race car build we like to call it.
Build.
Not available quite yet, so Tassadar won't walk away like he usually does. Bruisers have been picked up, and we do see Zagara was traded out as well. So that's a 1-for-1 trade. The rotations on either side of the map, one hero falling for each team, and we do see that the rest of the team for KingPlato's, excluding Vala, is very close to engaging with Tempo Storm. Had that, little rotation happen maybe about a level later with Prescience, would have been a different story. But, the fact that they're even able to take down Tassadar to be out of position in these scenarios, I love the confidence play that we're seeing from PPST at this point. That's how you have to approach this. You just need to be in the face of your opponent. But we do see Arthelon is very much out of position. Lunar Flare connecting, even Starfall being used. The heals and the Tranquility going out, but it's not enough to keep him up. Divine Shield keeping Vala alive. Dwarf Toss out for Muradin. So many low members on the side of KingPlato's, but no one has fallen.
That is so smart. I can't count the amount of times I've seen teams pick up an early takedown in some of these battles, and then their HPs are very low, but they continue to push in, and then the team fights get turned. Just take the advantage.
Yeah.
They have a hero down. They have some members that are very, very close to being taken out. Just back up. You have a large amount of time that the enemy is not being able to power up the Global Annihilation. Such a strong asset to have.
Yeah, Asmodee went back to base. He's all healed up and happy now. Arthelon going to be rotating around the map, and Soldier is here in the bottom lane with Zuna collecting this temple.
All right. Name of the game, of course, it is these objectives. We need to make sure that we're getting those. That is why we have so many of these picks, just around this battleground. It's about having the mule, etc. So we want to be able to constantly apply the pressure, and they're really looking, PPST is looking to end this game as early as possible.
Yeah, that's the name of the game, because you don't want Asmodee to be so farmed in the late game. That's the last situation you want to be fighting. You want to take the big early advantage. They've taken out the first 4 in the top lane, but Tempo Storm, they've removed the top 4 and the middle 4 at this point in time. Even the bottom 1, all 3 are down on the side of PoolPlato some Tangos.
I think it was Jester that mentioned the possibility of double shrink rate, and that's exactly what we have for PPST. Not only is that reduction in movement speed, but also just damage output, 50% reduced damage output. So if you get that onto a target like Asmodee or Jaina, if you can get people into the back line to apply that, that is going to be a huge advantage for PPST in team fights.
It's going to be a big, crucial playmaker, but there is one on the opposing side. Tassadar will have that available in his kit, so it's not the super safe Tassadar that we were just mentioning as a possibility. It's more to help Tempo Storm get more lockdowns and big plays.
Yeah, I would say probably lockdown more than damage output for the Archon that was grabbed. And the big thing about that is because Tassadar had to grab Mule. Static Charge is such a big boost in the damage output that you could grab at 7. The fact that he does not have that, maybe we will see Second Strike at level 16, but the Tassadar is looking for the utility at this point rather than the raw damage output.
Well, the Mule, we saw him working away at the bottom lane, and we currently have PoolPlato some Tangos all posturing around the bottom portion of the map. They're escorting these Giants, trying to get that siege camp to get the maximum damage potential, but Tempo Storm will be responding shortly.
250, 260 bonus damage on Asmodee, but this sort of slipped up on us, right? It's just snuck up. Tempo Storm's ahead now.
Yeah.
They're at level 16. They just hit that critical talent tier. They've just been doing a better job soaking in this mid lane. They haven't had any more takedowns.
Right, and a big part of that is the fact that they've removed 3 forts versus the one that PoolPlato has at this point in time. So it gives them that experience lead, and this is giving them so much control on the battlefield, forcing them back, and this is what Asmodee thrives on, having this freedom to just roam between 2 lanes and soak all of those minions for his globe.
Just about hitting that 300 bonus damage. PPST, once they hit level 16, I need to see some aggression. I need to see the fire get lit. They need to go back to what they were running early game. I want to see a bit more risk. Especially a team as experienced as Tempo Storm, you have to do something to throw them off.
Yeah, but they do have 16 now, and this means they can in fact contest this one middle tempo. It's almost beneficial that it's the single temple, because they want to take a fight, they want to take it now. Doing a nice job forcing bkid back, they're going to take this mercenary camp, and now they're going to make their way over to the middle temple.
Okay, Jake, we have Benediction, that's extra stuns for Uther. We now have Muradin with the second wind ability. He can go in and get a lot more, Stormform. More HP. He can get more aggressive. I want to see more stun chains for PPST. They need to take heroes out early in the fight, but honestly, it's got to happen soon.
Look at the damage output of that globe already. It's not even at max power, but Jaina comes in with the flank, taking out Tyrande almost immediately in this battle. We see that Uther in the backline trying to get away. Prismaticism solo, and the Archon will get the final shot in his face. Zagara goes down. bkid trying to get away. The Roots, are they ready? No, it does not look like it, but he will be able to walk away. In the end, 3-0 in favor of Tempo Storm in that team fight.
I guess that buys a little bit of a time. We talked about the distractions for Asmodee, and sure, that's nice, but I think Tempo Storm would be very happy taking that 3 takedown for nothing battle. And, honestly, when it came down to it, it was, the increased size on the Blizzard. That's one thing that has changed about the Jaina builds over the, since the last patch, since Venom is, takes a little bit longer for that damage to be thrown down. Look at this. This is the aggressive Tempo Storm who we were talking about. Just go in and take those keeps out when they know they have the advantage. All right, so the other thing that happened during that fight was 2 heroes got caught in that initial blast. You can only Divine Shield 1.
True. That's
you can only Divine Shield 1. I mean, I know it sounds really obvious, but that's exactly what happened. 2 heroes got bursted down so fast, and that could be, you could argue that that's a problem with just grabbing Uther, and one of those heroes was Tyrande. They got bursted down, so it's like, part of her ability is that she heals other people to get the heals herself. So the fact that she can't burst heal herself as much as she used to be able to, that's really why we saw Tempo Storm able to turn that fight so quickly.
Yeah, and this gives them so much map control, across the battleground. They do pick up this one camp in the bottom. They're rotating around. Asmodee continuing to get his farm on, now at 360 bonus damage at this point in time, and it's just getting more and more scary as the game continues. Almost a 2-level lead for Tempo.
Yeah, the takedowns are starting to creep up in favor of Tempo Storm. They're looking. I like what PPST is doing. They're rotating around. They're just saying, okay, we need to find something to put pressure on. They're trying to roam between the lanes to try to catch someone out of position.
Yeah, it certainly is, the name of the game right now. They're starting to push them back. They know they want to apply the pressure. But at the end of the day, Plato needs to find a window to attack before level 20 is reached by Tempo Storm. When they achieve those Storm talents, they're going to be at an even greater disadvantage. Johanna mitigating all of the stuns that just went out with her trait, that Iron Skin, and she's going to push on forward, and the heroics are being thrown out.
Yeah, Divine Shield being thrown very early onto Zachary. They're actually going to be able to take down Soldier, being played off Johanna. Okay, really nice Maw.
Yeah, the Maw does buy time on for PoolPlato to try to get some takedowns here, and it's going to just be Zagara and Tyrande going down first. So many low members, but this is what Tranquility is for. It's keeping Tempo Storm alive. No one is falling yet. bkid will get hit by one blast, condemn, locking down Uther, and only Vala will walk away.
All right, that is a 4-for-0 advantage for Tempo Storm. They are a late game team. We talked about this, how they drafted.
End it here.
They're looking to. This is the okay. I love this kind of play out of them. A lot of teams would be maybe a little bit hesitant. We'll play safe. We can back up. We can take the keeps. It's not necessarily worth taking this risk, but they know they have the time. They have all of this calculated, and they can just move forward, take the victory, and that's going to be a game 1.
Yeah. Congratulations to Tempo Storm. They took a very quick game number 1 victory over PoolPlato's Some Tangos, and although PoolPlato's had such a convincing start in that game, leading I think 7-0 in terms of takedowns, they turned it around.
Yeah, it was a very strong early game for PPST. I liked the style. I put the challenge to them that they needed that early game advantage.
Right.
It just just seemed Tempo Storm remaining cool, collected. Yeah, we lost some heroes early on, but we're not going to let that affect our mid and late game strategy.
I gotta say, Kubi, you gave them that challenge, and they rose to that challenge. And as you said, that early game was just ridiculously good from them. Who else can 7-0 Tempo that early? But unfortunately, they weren't able to kind of continue on that streak. We got a little bit of a replay that we're going to show you here, ladies and gentlemen, as we load on into it, because this is one of those big key moments as we're going to be looking at here. It was just a few levels ago. It wasn't really that long, but at the level 16 mark, this is for one of those tempo fights, and what do we see here? Well, the big thing there is a water elemental, and that was
a big turning point. I remember this. Yes, the Blizzard. We saw so many of those heroes being taken down. It was just like so much damage thrown down immediately in that fight.
So right there, already 2 of PoolPlato Some Tangos are in that Blizzard. Now at the same time, we're going to say goodbye there to Tyrande. Where does Arthelon go? Well, she goes into the top, and unfortunately there, the strafe doesn't quite get the value, and now with the team split, you're going to see Zagara as we have the advance from Tempo into the bottom, and they just unfortunately are not able to hold. So if we take a quick look at the turn of events, bam, down goes the damage, Tyrande out, the shield on top of the Valley into the top, she strafes, doesn't get any value, and now PoolPlato into the top, PoolPlato into the bottom. Unfortunately, they cannot really deal with that level of damage. Mirrodin just left to his own devices, and the rest of Tempo Storm from there basically took the reins of the game, and they were able to finish it out. And geez, like one team fight by the end of it, they got a good team wipe. Keep done. Game number 2.
It almost looked like the Divine Shield was just waiting for the Globe of Annihilation to be off cooldown. It's like, you're going to be safe until Asmodee's ready. In the moment that it wore off, we saw the Globe smack Vala in the face, and it nearly took her out.
There was like 3 or 4 of those orbs that actually, like in that fight, just got so much value into the backline. Not on top of the big warriors, but on top of the squishies. Vala always almost got that Divine Shield in those fights because they needed it. They needed her damage. They needed to keep her up. And in this case, unfortunately, the team just kind of fell apart at the end. So valiant effort in the beginning, but when it came to that mid, Tempo Storm, they got this stuff on lockdown.
Mm-hmm. They had that mid-game under control, and it's really what did allow them to take that game number 1 victory. But guys, head on over to heroesofthestorm.com. You guys can sign up to play Heroes of the Storm for free. It's a lot of fun. If you guys want to try out your Asmodee and Johanna stacking abilities, that's the place to go to sign up to play.
All right, well, we're going to get ready for the second game of this best of 3 series. So we're just going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back in just a few.
if I'm not playing Heroes of the Storm, I'm either spending time with my family or trying to stay in shape so I can perform better inside the game.
I like collecting Funko Pop action figures, I like hiking, and I also really like going jogging.
I'm taking a class right now at a community college in the morning.
Right now my life is pretty much getting better Heroes of the Storm, getting better at the game, and trying to make a name for myself and my teammates.
I love all the Blizzard games, so I play StarCraft, WoW, Hearthstone.
Before moving to the house, I used to work a day job at Google. My family at first wasn't too supportive. They're not quite sure, like, oh, you have a nice job, you can just work your 9 to 5. They weren't even like really aware that this was, so they were just really confused when I started talking to them about this at first. They're like, video games? Getting paid? What? No way.
I currently work in San Francisco as a research data analyst.
I love the outdoors, I love to kayak.
What do I do outside of Heroes of the Storm? That's a damn good question.
And it all comes down to this
Draft is
Storm
very,
Wind
very
champion
important.
versus
I believe
Ogre
it's,
Brute.
like 50% of the game.
We do have some people have more vocal opinions, I guess, when it comes to what we should be drafting, and some are more at the forefront of it. But overall, when it comes down to each pick, it's a 5-man decision.
If you have a bad draft, it can be really, really hard to win.
When it comes to the maps and Heroes of the Storm, overall, we're pretty confident on almost every map.
I would say we like the maps like Sky Temple, Tomb, Cursed Hollow, Dragonshire. But then maps like Mines or Battlefield, we tend to shy away from.
And it all comes down to this Stormwind champion versus Ogre Brute.
I'm feeling really good about Stormwind here.
Whoa.
Am I seeing this right?
Could be a scare tactic, Bob. Could be nerves.
Now, I don't think scare tactics work with ogres.
You know from experience.
Okay, well, let's not get into my personal life.
Hold that thought. Looks like we have a substitution. It's Tankmaster Overspark.
This guy's a very technical player. His game's about nuance, precision.
Whoa, that's Hearthstone.
Play it free on your phone or PC.
Rated T for
Alrighty guys, welcome back here to the July North America Open, where we just saw Tempo Storm take game number 1 versus PoolPlato's Some Tangos.
That's right. It was a very dicey game, so a lot of momentum shifts between the two. So we challenged PPST for that early game. They did deliver, like you said, Jester. But Tempo Storm, they're just known for that late game and having the control, and they were able to take control of that.
I'd almost say that that's kind of the Tempo Storm tempo, if you will. I mean, they go forward and maybe not do so well early, but they lock it down. By the time they get to their heroic tier, level 10, 13, 16, you see the bigger strengths of their comps. They usually come out into this one. So game number 2 going forward, wouldn't be too much of a surprise to see kind of the same tempo as they go forward, because we're going to be going to Tomb of the Spider Queen. If you guys don't know the map, we have a video here for you so we can get you reacquainted with it. So as we're going to be jumping on into it, the battleground overview for the Tomb of the Spider Queen. So again, 3 lanes, small map. This does lead us into a lot of skirmishes, a lot of stacking games with that Asmon. In fact, this is like the big map for him there. 4 mercenary camps that you cannot ignore here either as you jump into it. I mean, with that, the objective, you can easily supplement there with those. But speaking of that objective, collect and turn in the gems. You got to put those gems into the cocoons, and you're going to summon these guys to your aid, summon the web weavers, and they're going to be moving forward and just pushing every single lane that you own. So you can get the gems by hitting out the heroes, do the mercenaries, hit the creeps, and of course win the game by the end of it all with the help of your friendly spiders. And man, don't they just look so good, Jake?
Are there such things as friendly spiders?
All spiders are friendly. It's a human misconception.
Spider Bros.
Spider Bros. Spider-Man, you have a comic about this guy. He is your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
All right, you know what, Jester? You convinced me.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about one of our other Spider Bros. He actually plays for Tempo Storm, and he goes by the name Soldier. He made some big plays in game number 1, and we get a closer look at some of his stats.
Yeah, he's really, he is the warrior player when it comes down to it. And what he's so good for, I would say his Johanna play. It seems to be really, really on point. I actually think he just released a guide on it, so you guys can go check that out. But yeah, no, I mean, he's been the warrior. He swapped in maybe 4 months ago, I think, when they had some of their roster swaps around, but he's been owning that position on the team, and it's a lot of fun to watch him.
So let's actually just take a look at the graphic for Soldier, if we are able to, because he is so very talented, and I'd love to talk more. Look at his pretty face. Tempestor Soldier. He actually plays a lot of Abathur, apparently, as a warrior.
Interesting. Yeah, but okay, so he is in Arizona along with the rest of his team, as they do have that team house. He graduated with a bachelor's degree in game design and development.
And he's certified in PC mobile device repair, so I'm actually going to bring him to fix my phone screen because I need
you just
that.
break it?
Yeah.
That's pretty tragic, man.
Tempo Storm is kind of the leaders in communication. When we talk a lot about how these guys communicate. We've done listen-ins in the past and other tournaments as well, and the communication is on point. So having a degree to help that out, certification, I mean, it goes a long way. These guys know exactly how to talk to each other. They know what each other does to make each other tick. And going back and forth, I mean, they're number one for a reason. Communication is a big part of this genre game.
It really is.
Let's do a little bit of theory crafting here, guys. What does PPST need to change in this next set of drafting? I would say this is definitely some pressure on the draft phase of the game. What would you guys like to see them change in terms of trying to throw Tempo Storm off?
So I would almost say that Tempo Storm kind of showed their hand a little bit too early. Excuse me, PoolPlato showed their hand too early.
Okay.
They opened up the draft with Muradin and Tyrande, and that's immediately saying, hey, look, we're here to bring the pain early. We're going to be trying to do this kind of rotation gank squad, if you will. And Tempo immediately had the response. They went for a little bit more safety. They were able to respond to that immediately in the draft.
Yeah, so with that Tyrande, I mean, it does usually lead you into the big threat of a melee assassin. That was a very big map. This is a very small map. So if they are going to go for the Tyrande, I would want to wait for a 1-2 punch, so to speak, with a 2-pick banned phase. And that means, I believe, since PoolPlato Samtangos lost the map, they're actually going to be up first. So they can first pick, and then second, third, we might still see the Tyrande there, but it has to be that second, third, or the fourth, fifth as we go forward. And that way they won't tip their hand, and they'll land a sweet assassin to go with her.
All right, guys. Well, we do, in fact, have the draft for game number 2 ready to roll, so let's hop on into it here for Tomb of the Spider Queen.
Okay, I mean, that is going to be a big deal. This is a smaller map. The space between the lanes is a lot closer, but also having vision and control of those turning points, like you were talking about, Jester, is going to be a big deal. So we might see things like Zagara, Malfurion. Just keep an eye out for those during the draft.
Well, the draft so far is actually the complete same bands, but opposite for the team. So last time it was Kalthas actually banned up by Tempo Storm. This time, PoolPlato Samtangos, which again, Tempo Storm as that second team very likely is going to be banning out the Zeratul. Nobody just wants to deal with that Zeratul. I mean, he just does so much in the hands of a good melee assassin, and both these teams have those players.
Yeah, different game, different map, same story though. Jaina will be the first pick. Just trading sides.
Trade teams, why not?
It just this is kind of the state of the game though. These 3 assassins are so very sought after. We have the red, we have the blue, and then we have the purple. Jaina, it's so rainbowy.
Very proud of you, Jake. Good job with the colors there. Nicely done. All right, Shahana's picked up. Is it going to be an Azmodan with it? This is undoubtedly the best map for Azmodan to stack on.
This is the map that we did set those world records. As he said, it's very small. Azmodan in one lane. We actually like to see a lot of roaming, ping-pong style between the lanes earlier on, because if you have Joanna with the Knight Take Pong, level 1, and you can pair it with a Jaina, with a Tassadar, with a Vala, anybody else with big wave clear, you can really stack some very early damage early on.
I'm going to be a little bit critical of PoolPlato here.
Uh-oh.
Are they so scared of Kael'thas? Why not ban out Azmodan? But yeah, I get it. He's a strong hero. But I mean, this is Tempo Storm's. This is their game. This is their jam. They like to play Azmodan and Johanna.
You gave them the challenge. Be aggressive early. And what did we see? 7-0. We had heroics first for PoolPlato Samtangos.
More aggressive. Oh, more aggressive.
So, okay, well, if more aggressive means Azmodan, he can't deal with aggression.
I like this. I like what they have. They have the Jaina, the Muradin, and the Tyrande. Those 3 can really dish out some damage. We talked about this last time. We're like, Tyrande, Muradin, sure. But do they have the damage to follow it up? Jaina fits that so well.
It does, and this is forcing Tempo Storm to actually ban out Butcher, because that rotation power with Butcher is just disgusting. Terrifying is the best way to put it. The second you see that Butcher's mark on your head when he's charging onto you with the Roost Onslaught, you know you're in for some pain, and they do not want to allow that.
Terrifying, sure. I'd be okay with you calling him disgusting. He is a pretty gross looking dude. The second ban for PoolPlato Samtangos is going to be Tassadar. How do you feel about that?
Well, Tassadar provides tons of vision on the map. He provides a lot of utility and power, and they have one of those pseudo supports, Tyrande, locked in for themselves. Remove it from Tempo. But this gives Tempo a lot of options in terms of supports. They can get whomever they like.
Well, if we know Tempo Storm, it's likely to be a Rhaegar, especially since we had already Johanna and Azmodan as 2 very big health pools. But as said, Vala, Jaina, Tassadar, these are the big heroes that go very well with Azmodan. So the Jaina was already picked up by PoolPlato. You see the Tassadar ban, that kind of leaves us into Vala, and there's the Rhaegar.
So
Forecourt Sensei with the call. He's got the Rhaegar on lock. Yeah, and I think that does make a lot of sense.
One thing we have to talk about here, though, is just, once again, Tempo Storm kind of drafting for safety. Rhaegar has Wolf Form, can dodge a lot of those skill shots that can lock him down. Vala has Tumble. She can just vault out of the way. Asmodee has the highest health pool in the game. And then Johanna, she has a trait that disables all stuns on her for a few seconds. So every single hero here has some kind of defensive capability.
So, Malfurion, Tyrande, that's a heck of a healing comp. That's a heck of a disable. Stuns, roots, heals over time, burst healing, tranquility. Definitely big. What is this last pick? Show me the Kerrigan.
It's got to be aggressive.
It's going to be a Zagara.
Zagara.
Not comfortable in melees, it seems.
Yeah, we can talk about Zagara in a little bit more detail, actually. She has a lot of, we talked about this, the control, and the vision is very, very important. It's actually her trait that is going to be very clutch in this game, and that is the creep tumor. It's sort of like a mobile, vision, security camera of those areas,
it's a ward
right?
in a lot of ways. And it's just so powerful on this map. The name of the game for Tomb of the Spider Queen is all about rotations and getting those early game takedowns. This will really give them that control. They can not only have eyes on Tempo Storm to help them get the lockdown, but this denies the potential for Zagara to be picked up by Tempo Storm themselves.
Now, we didn't talk about this last game, but there was no sight of Sylvanas in picks or bans. This time, last pick coming in from Tempo Storm. She used to be a big first pick meta in the June Open that we did see just last month, but here, not only do we not see her game number 1, but she's last pick here in game number 2 of this game series. So that's rather strange that she's fallen kind of to the wayside.
But she's still very powerful. She's less about the damage, she's more about the utility. She has a big silence, and when she has the web weavers pushing down those lanes, she can push with them, disabling the towers, and it's very powerful. But I think we're just about ready for game number 2, guys. So let's hop on into it. Tomb of the Spider Queen between Tempo Storm and PoolPlato's Zumtango.
Yeah. It should be really, really cool to see how these strategies are going to change on a bit of a smaller map. And we talked about the vision being very, very important, but who do you guys think has the more aggressive strategy or, should be able to exact it?
Well, that's PoolPlato.
Yeah. It's got to be, right?
Because if you're playing the stacking game, you're not being aggressive.
That's right.
We'll have to see if that works out for them, guys.
All right, well, here is game number 2 on Tomb of the Spider Queen. And on the left side, it's going to be Tempo Storm, with Sylvanas being played by Zuna, Rhaegar played by Dreadnaught, Vala going to be rocked by Kaeyoh, Asmodee played by Arthelon, and Soldier playing as Johanna. Look how handsome they are in those blue jerseys.
On the right side of the map, on the red team, it is going to be PoolPlato Zumtango. Jaina is going to be played by bkid. Murden is going to be played by bkid. We're going to have Tyrande played by KingPlato. Malfurion will be played by Mookiez. Zagara, that's going to be Apauloh. And who did I miss? Who is on Jaina? Oh, Prismaticism. How could I forget?
All right, well, Tomb of the Spider Queen, we talked about it a bit. It is a triple lane map, and we already see Zagara starting to spread those creep tumors down, specifically around the coffers in the center of the map. If you can control that area, you can prevent the enemy team from turning in their gems, disallowing them from trying to summon the help of the web weavers.
Jake, you played a lot of Sylvanas yourself, right?
She's my bae.
She's your bae, okay. So I see that Zuna has picked up Barbed Shot at level 1. 200% damage to mercenaries and minions. What do you think about that?
So Zuna is actually really kind of known for experimenting with some of these ranged assassins, actually assassins in general. And he uses some of the weirder builds on Sylvanas. He swears by this. He thinks that everyone else in the community is actually foolish for not selecting this talent, and he's very strong opinion about it. This just gives him so much additional pressure pushing down those lanes, and especially when we talk about pushing with the web weavers, it just powers through those minions like they're nothing.
All right. So actually a little bit more onto the draft. We saw that they went once more for this Murden Tyrande combo, and they needed aggressive play last game. Did they swap their strategy up enough to put enough pressure onto Tempo Storm? I'm almost in the camp that not enough.
They haven't swapped their strategy up at all, really, but they get the takedown here on Sylvanas. That's a great start. And the reason that I'm okay with them not really changing their strategy is the map difference.
Okay.
The fact that they're on such a small map like this is going to assist their strategy a bit more in the end.
Okay. So we're going to have to see how they're able to translate that lead better, because they actually had it. I mean, I gave them the challenge, they fulfilled it, but it was about holding that advantage as long as possible to put enough pressure onto Tempo Storm.
I think they really lost out when it came to the objectives, though. They ended up losing out in the team fights. And on this map, if they can just continue to get the ganks on the enemy team, they can deny them the gem turn-ins, because when you fall in battle, you actually drop all of your gems. And that's one thing that could really help out PoolPlato's in the late game. Right now, not a whole lot of gems have been collected, about 20 for each team in their pockets. None have been turned in at this point in time.
Okay, I will say, though, I'm a bit scared for PPST because this is the map to farm. for Asmodee. We will see the stack so much earlier. Probably around the 5-minute mark, I'm looking to see at least 100 bonus damage. And, you know, as Jester was saying a bit earlier, the record is 11 minutes on this map, and it's held by Tempo Storm.
And if we just kind of look at their composition, they have so much assistance for that Asmodee, but if he is dead, he actually can't get any farm at all, but they're trying to turn it around on bkid. The Envenom going off, not going to be quite enough for the takedown with the heals of Toronto.
Okay, well done from KingPlato, the flex player, just to make sure he's able to get that heal. Well done. So they get the takedown, and they're able to just keep moving forward. They need to keep driving. They're only, you know, about a half level lead. Actually, I'll take it back. I think that's pretty good thus far. But when, you know, the stacking, that's what they really need to put the halt on.
And they've done a nice job at taking out Asmodee, and that's going to be, honestly, just a big priority target for them. Anytime they see him out of position, they're going to be looking for that takedown. But once Cleanse is achieved at level 7, it's going to be much harder to do that.
All right, I'm just looking over the talents real quick. We do have the Envenom on Sylvanas, and I got to say, you know, Venom did see a lot of changes in the last patch. Do you think that's still a good idea? To grab that at level 4 for Sylvanas?
Unfortunately, Sylvanas doesn't really have a whole lot of other good options at level 4. And Venom still has a fair amount of damage output, although it is, of course, over a longer period of time, and it almost worked out there in the end. I mean, we saw how close that takedown was, but the heals from Tyrande were clutch. But Dread, using this wolf form, trying to escape, he's going to dodge. The Chronicle did connect Blizzard, hitting him. It will be enough for that takedown. Nicely done. All those gems there being currently guarded by bkid, but Arthelon, with the strange positioning around that bottom portion, will be able to collect them.
Would have been a bit of an overextension probably for PlaTo Simtankos to try to go in and put, you know, punish Arthelon for grabbing those gems. But, you know, and picking up the gems, holding control of them is pretty important. I think both teams are very close to being able to turn in, maybe just shy like 6 or 7 or so on either side. So we're going to see a little bit more emphasis on controlling those turn-in points.
Yeah, but we see pings happening furiously in the bottom portion of the map because those giants, in fact, were collected. But they're making their way down to the bottom lane where Dreadnaught will be responding. 8 gems in the pocket of KingPlato. Arthelon needs to be very careful right now, but he's going to end up falling.
And he drops a fair amount of gems. If you remember, he was the one that ended up picking up those gems from Dread being taken down earlier. It's so far, it's very good from PlaTo. Now they were able to grab the Giants in the bottom lane. Had they been able to turn it right away, a nice Haunting Wave. Zuna gets out at the very last second.
Yeah, just at the pinnacle of that wave, he's able to teleport to it when the stun does wear off, so nicely done. Haunting Wave, you have to kind of predict that you're about to get stunned. You throw it out early in time, and that's how you know it's a seasoned Sylvanas player.
A lot of cloaked abilities have been grabbed. We do see that Ghost Wolf, the upgrade for that at level 4, and we also have the Shade Form, another takedown onto Zuna. Even having the cloak on the Haunting Wave, not quite enough to get him out of there.
And if there's just AoE damage all around you, Cloak's not going to help you too much because it doesn't make you invulnerable. And look at this creep spread. We talked about this being a crucial part. Zachary does have that level 7 talent that gives it an increased radius for every tumor that is placed down. This is providing so much vision for PlaTo.
Yeah, PlaTo's just really showing they have the early game.
Yeah.
They have a very strong grasp of it, and they're even able to put a lot of pressure on a team like Tempo Storm. But again, it comes down to that mid game, and what are they able to translate this lead into?
Historically, Tempo Storm is actually kind of known for falling behind in the early game and just turning it up, turning up the heat in the late game and bringing the pain to their opponents. But we'll see if they can do it here on Spider Queen because the Web Weavers have been summoned. They are just about level 9, and this is really going to help push them towards 10 very quickly, giving them a massive timing window.
Jake, you talk about way back when. The Tempo Storm. I got to pull my old man moment here. Okay, you remember the first time they hopped into the EU scene where they played their first tournament over there? Almost every single game that they played, they were behind massively in the early game.
And guess what? They were running Asmodee compositions. They were running Asmodee competitions in that tournament, and this just kind of speaks to the hero. It's a late game hero. It's about farming, and as long as they don't fall too far behind, they can mitigate the damage. But level 10 about to be achieved by PlaTo. This is going to give them this massive timing window.
You know what? They're quite a bit further ahead than they were before.
Yeah, they are. More than a level.
Just about a level. Yeah, even a bit more than a level at this point. I want to see aggressive play, even more than they have been at this point. If it means translates turning in, boom, they just keep going. I love this.
Getting Rhaegar right here, taking out Dreadnaught. This is going to deny any capability for Tempo Storm to try to push in and turn in those gems. The Maw actually zoning Johanna out of here. We do see the Hunter's Mark applied in the Storm, but will get the takedown. Lunar Flare connecting on Zuna. He's going to use the Haunting Wave to just barely get away from here, but looks like bkid doesn't want to give that up.
He's going down
a single minion, but the Dwarf off the Storm Bolt will be connected, and that is going to be yet another takedown. This is huge.
Well played to bkid. I'm loving this aggressive impressive play, Jake. This is exactly what I wanted to see last game. Look at the level advantage right now. They're a level and a half up over Tempo Storm.
All right, well, we see that Asmodee and Vala were considering trying to turn in, but they realize this is too risky. They need to fall back. They need to wait until they have 5 members up. At this point in time, they're just trying to soak to get those heroic abilities themselves.
Yeah, that's going to be a big deal. What are they going to grab? They're going to probably have Ancestral Healing, Strafe. Sylvanas will go for that Wailing Arrow. Asmodee, of course, with the Black Pool. Johanna, Blessed Shield, I would imagine. Do you think that's going to do a lot to change what they have in terms of being able to defend?
It will, but
hold them off.
At this rate, they're going to have to deal with more Web Weavers because there's 33 gems sitting on Zagara at this point in time, and she is turning them in at the top coffer. This will, in fact, some of those Web Weavers, here they are, and now Tempo Storm has to defend, but Lunar Flare will be cleansed this time around.
Okay, well done for the self-cleanse on Dread. Okay, we do have the heroics picked up for Tempo Storm. It's exactly like what we thought they would see. I think those pickups make a lot of sense.
The Globe going out trying to empower that the Globe of Annihilation, and it's going to do just fine with that. But with heroics,
look at this. They're at 124 bonus damage, and we're 8.5 minutes into the game. This is worse than Sky Temple.
Because the pressure that Play-Doh has been putting on has been so effective in denying them that
They're
safety.
finding their groove, man.
Yeah.
They are finding their groove. This is what we wanted to see last game. And they okay, that's a lot of damage onto Johanna even. Of all targets. She does have the Iron Skin, the self-cleanse, and the shield that goes up. And the fact that they're able to put that much pressure on their tank that early,
and enforcing out the Ancestral Healing too, that's a big deal. Now our secondary observer is going to drop, but we're still in the game, so that's exciting. And we do see the Web Weaver, the well has gone down. The middle fort has already fallen. This is really pushing their experience lead further ahead once more. When this fort falls, it's going to get them very close to 13. Again, talent advantage at 13, talent advantage at 16. If they can continue this story, it's going to be very good for them.
Yeah, PPST needs to continue to translate this advantage. I want to see more structures being taken out. If they take another advantage team fight, push in and take the keep. They need to put that early pressure on, especially on a map like Tomb of the Spider Queen, where the objective is not quite as strong as some of the other maps. It requires a bit more of the coordination. I love this play. They're setting up. Is Soldier out of position at this point? He's going to have to use a straight. I think he will be able to get out.
Oh, the Lunar Flare again, not going to be on point, very close, but our Soldier's going to be able to back on out. Now, we have to point something out here. Level 13 will have to be hit. Tempo Storm lost literally 1 game in the entire June North America Open. This is the round of 8. This is the second game of the day, and Play-Doh's has a nice lead thus far.
You can see the shift in almost like the body language in game. Tempo Storm, they feel like they're turning something around. You can see they were starting to wrap around, trying to provide a flank. I'm not sure they have enough of an advantage at this point, especially with 13 just being hit by PPST.
They just have that additional talent tier, like you mentioned, and this is going to make them very confident in their fight, but they have no reason to fully commit to a battle. Fair amount of gems that they could turn in. Tempo Storm still needs a good 23 gems for their full completion, and that's why we see Play-Doh's just kind of posturing around the coffers.
Bit more stacking for Asmodee, but we talked about this before. He's a bit behind where he should be, especially for a map like this. Okay, that's a lot of burst damage. We do see the ice block thrown down from Malfurion.
All right, and Tranquility does go off. They managed to peel in time, keeping Malfurion alive. A big maw, zoning them out. That's just going to keep Arthelon out of the battle, and they're focusing, but Ancestral does connect on Soldier, but Stormbolt locking him down with the Hunter's Mark. 2 heroes have fallen. Dreadnaught gets hit by the stun. Owl comes out. Hedwig will deliver the package, and Prismaticism is going to be enough to secure another takedown.
Take a boss, take a keep. Got to do something with this.
This is really,
they tried.
Really they were a little bit late to go to the boss. They wanted to do it, but the turn-in from Tempo Storm was there in time, so the Web Weavers will mitigate a bit of damage, but that's not going to stop the pressure from Play-Doh.
I'd almost argue that they needed to do something more with this. You can tell that they're a little bit hesitant in terms of what kind of an advantage they have. See a little bit of maybe lag or latency on our side. Yeah, I can see that we're trying to reconnect. No problem. We will try to hop back into that game as soon as we can, guys.
Yeah, a bit of technical difficulties here. I assume this is due to the thunderstorm that actually assaulted our studio right before the broadcast.
Assaulted is a great way to word that. We had some crazy colors going on back here. Really, really awesome. Yeah. Unfortunately, we couldn't bring that to you guys because this, this setup stage we have here is super nice.
Yeah. So again, the Observer has fallen out of the battle. We're just waiting for the reconnect to happen. It might take a few moments here, but let's talk a little bit more about the game. Now, it's very uncommon to see Play-Doh's or any team against Tempo Storm in an advantageous position, but right now that's the exact case we're seeing. Very far ahead when it comes to takedowns. They've had the rotation aggressions or the aggressive rotations, and of course they've got the double turn-in on the Web Weavers.
Yeah, so yeah, you're right. They have the advantage. They had that game number 1, but I think what's more important, and I gave them the challenge and they did it, but this time they're taking it a bit further, and that's exactly what you have to do. You have to hold that lead as long as possible. I think they're doing a really, really good job at this point. They have set themselves up so nicely to take this game and have sort of an upset going in first game of the day.
So right before the disconnect happened, one thing that we mentioned was the fact that you thought it might be a little bit too passive to just go for the fort. You think they need to go for the throat, go towards the keep? What's the best way to capitalize on the current situation that the game is in?
Okay, and I think what that has to do with, we talked about this strategy where they wanted to turn in and also take the boss at the same time. I would have been very, very happy with that play. They just mistimed it very slightly. Once you capture the objective, you can no longer grab any of the mercenary camps.
Right. Well, actually, just going to correct you really quick. It was Tempo Storm that did turn in. So Tempo Storm got there right before the boss was achieved. I was a bit confused as well. I thought they mistimed it, but Tempo Storm actually got the turn in. So currently, it's the Web Weavers on the opposing side trying to defend for Tempo Storm.
Okay. Yeah, I did miss that as well.
So that's a big deal because I believe it was Vala that went down to the bottom portion of the map and turned in her gems. I think she had about 20 on her, 23 or so, just enough for the turn in. So that's going to help them crawl back into things at level 13.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. That kind of play. And that just, shows why Tempo Storm is such an experienced team to make that kind of play. So, we just got kind of ruined in that team fight. Yeah. The least we can do is make sure that we turn in with the remaining heroes that we have and try to hold off some of this map pressure, because it was pretty obvious at that point they're going to take something big. They're going to go for the keep. They're going to try to take the boss. We can probably try to defend the keep, maybe buy some time for that, but the boss, we can't do anything about that except turn in.
Exactly. And I mean, the boss is very powerful here too, especially when if it is paired with the Web Weavers. But we are actually back on into the game. Excellent here. And it looks like we did see the Web Weaver did get summoned. They dissipated. Some time has passed, and now we have some Web Weavers on the side of KingPlato.
Okay, that's good. So we were able to get a pause in between this disconnect, so we didn't miss any of the game for the most part, as far as I can see.
Well, it's 16 to 15 though, and that's a big part of the story. So it is a level 16 advantage, and in favor of KingPlato's, they still have that stronger positioning in this game.
Okay, so we can see the stacks. Unfortunately, we can't give you guys live updates for that because our second observer has DC'd out of the game. We're trying to get him back in so we can get you guys those updates. But look at this. We can still see the confident play from PPST.
Right. They have all the control on the battlefield they want. They want to choke Tempo Storm out of any experience and farm for Azmodan that they can. And that's why they're just pressuring this middle lane heavily. If they can take out those towers, that's 650 experience for the back towers that they take out.
Okay, are they getting enough of an advantage off of this this turn in, or at least the defense portion of this? So they did turn in, and they got the top 4, but is it enough? That's the question. Is it enough?
Yeah, I don't know. But they do have complete control at this point in time. Tempo Storm has been just kind of sitting back and making sure they soak to the best of their ability. They're about to hit level 16, so this is going to put them on a very even footing when it comes to the team fight capability, and we have to point out the fact that Azmodan does continue to get stronger throughout the game.
Yeah, I think I have to lean to it. They didn't put enough pressure on, because at this point, what is left for both these teams? Now that the objective has been cleared out, there's not enough gems for really either side to turn in. It's basically just go back and take the camps on your side of the map. This buys Tempo Storm so much time to catch up in experience. There's no way they can take this boss.
Right.
It's too risky. Oh, no, I don't know about this.
This could be a throw. We call it the throw pit for a reason. Now, they're trying to force a fight, but this isn't the time for it. Tempo is on their level 16 talents, so forcing a fight here could... although they could turn the game around for Tempo Storm, I don't know if it's a necessary play out of KingPlato.
This is such a scary position. If they are able to take this boss, that will do a lot for KingPlato and Tango in terms of trying to secure this lead. Is Tempo Storm backing up? They're turning. Oh, they're trying to turn in.
They're trying to turn in, but I think this might be a bit of a misstep, because this will, in fact, give the boss, especially with the Hunter's Mark going down. That is the boss going the way of KingPlato some Tangos. Tempo Storm realizes this. They will defend it. 28 gems turned in, but that's nowhere near enough for the Web Weavers.
All right. What is the reasoning in terms of they didn't go in? I think it's because they're just not feeling confident enough in the sustainability of someone to go into check to initiate the fight.
When you think about all of the lockdown that's been happening, like even Johanna, who we consider to be like almost invincible in a team fight, Hunter's Mark deals with that nicely. Tyrande has the power to make that warrior so squishy suddenly with a 25% increase of damage received.
Okay, boss wailing away. It looks as though they will be able to take out both of these towers at the very least, and I think they're looking to try to get that takedown. Arthelon with that all-shell burn ability. Okay, Jaina, gotta be careful. Prismaticism falling quite low. And they're going to get some shots in onto this keep, but I don't think they're going to be able to take it down unless they get takedowns of their own.
Right, so they've weakened it, they've made it exposed, it's all very nice, but no keep going down quite yet. And a nice busted shield followed up with the Wailing Arrow, but it only connected onto Ronda. Zuna is now in a terrible position. The Root's locking him down. He is completely separate from the team. We see that Shrink Ray, and that will be a takedown in this battle. One hero has fallen in the back line. They're trying to throw the globes out, but the Maw connects with Anvala.
Okay, and that means we see the Root underneath that is upgraded. Wow, okay, being taken down so fast. Jaina, with all those skills together, it is just Dread and Soldier alive, along with Arthelon on that Asmodean. I think this might be the advantage they're looking for to take the keep. Okay, gotta keep worrying about those Globes of Annihilation. This is why we see that Asmodean is such a strong hero on this map.
That one dunk empowered by the Black Pool hit 4 heroes, taking out 1, and it will be ready for battle very soon. Going for Apauloh this time around, not going to be able to take him out. His mana is very low. Soldier, very far out forward. Ancestral Healing, they're just in time to keep him alive.
Well done for Dread on that clutch Ancestral Healing. Another Globe is being thrown out. Okay, only connecting with bkid. A lot of that fight that didn't really happen there came down to mana pools for both teams. We saw that Arthelon was very, very low, and I think it was Plato that was also quite low, and we see Mookiez has to hearth back, so they probably wanted to continue fighting, but they just didn't have the resources to do that.
Yeah, all right. Well, we do see it is now currently a full level lead in favor of pool play of Storm Tangos, and this is a big story as we think that level 20, well, it's very close. Getting those Storm talents is a big deal, but Tempo Storm, they have nearly enough, potentially enough on the table to turn in 4 Web Weavers to get some more, get those forts down. All 3 forts still standing on the side of Pool Plato.
Yep, and that makes a big deal. And we also, I mean, I'm noticing the damage that those Globes of Annihilations are doing. I would probably suspect we're probably in the 350 to 400 damage range at this point. It's starting to get to that critical mass where it's like, all right, this is something we have to deal with. We need to get through this game as quickly as we can.
Yeah, but this is big for Tempo Storm. They do have the turn-in with those Web Weavers summoning. They're going to push for all 3 lanes, and if they can take out all forts, that's going to catch them up in this game very well.
Yeah, and they're holding this map control once more. They're only down a level at this point, and this is, Tempo Storm is really looking for their big break to try to shift the momentum back, apply that structural pressure like you were talking about. They have the Web Weavers moving forward. This is starting to look good for Tempo Storm.
It is. Now, it's still not lights out yet by any means for Pool Player. They do have the advantage, and we do see the Hunter's Mark going down, but the fort has fallen, and we do see Tyrande being pulled in. Starfall has been used. 1 heroic goes down. Temple will just disengage from here. Actually, 2, even Tranquility was used. This is a big deal.
Yeah, look at the positioning for Asmodean as well. He's hiding on that south wall and just chucking globes over, and they get the Wailing Arrow onto Jaina, and I think they will be able to take her down. Yes, so that's an entire 60 seconds. A good attempt with the mob, but that is not going to break Jaina back anytime soon. Oh, okay. All right, the Ancestral Healing not quite there.
10-second cooldown when it doesn't go off like that, and that's not going to be ready for Johanna. So 2 heroes end up falling, only 1 down on the side of Pool Plato's. Sylvanas, very low. Ancestral not going to be connecting once more. This is huge by Pool Plato's Takos, and that allows them to hit level 20.
All of the Ancestral Healings up until this point in the game have been very much on point, but Dread just missed 2 of them, and that's 2 heroes, with the addition to Vala also being taken out. bkid, I've been loving this warrior play. He's so aggressive and he's super confident. Nice juke from Dread. Where's he running?
Where's the Ancestral? Where's the Ancestral? Hit the rewind from Tyrande to get the takedown.
So
big plays.
Good.
The Web Weavers with the General of Hell and the promote in the top lane might take out that top keep. The bottom keep is also getting incredibly low. They have left these uncontested for a very long time. Tempo Storm will have time to respawn, but they just lost the top keep of their own.
I think that's okay though. That's the aggressive play that they wanted to make. They're showing that they have the strength in the team fights to take out Tempo. If they get another fight like that, the game's over.
But Tempo hit 20 because of that keep falling. The top keep is almost down as well. There's only 35 seconds left before Rhaegar is back up, and I think they need to get aggressive with the mercenary camps right now. They have 5 heroes to 3. They need to push across the map.
Okay, we're almost at maximum stacks for Arthelon, but he does not have the mobility. Hold on, I take that back. He does have Bolt of the Storm. Is he going to get a chance to use it? He does not. That is an entire 65 seconds that Asmodean will be out. They realize they have bought themselves the opportunity to take this boss. The top lane is already pushed out. The keep is out. They can put a lot of pressure onto the core with this. They might be looking to try to finish this.
Asmodean being there was a big misstep, a big play there by the enemy team, but with the Tranquility not being able to be used because of that Wailing Arrow, they managed to take out Malfurion immediately. Zagara very low in the back lane, but they can't quite get to her, and it's going to be Sylvanas that goes down. bkid with the plays. Soldier trying to lock down Sylvanas. The Maw goes down, but Zagara does end up falling.
They should be able to take out Soldier at this point. He's probably just going to try and stall as long as he can. Does not have the indestructible, I don't think. Where is it? Oh, Storm Shield that he ended up picking up at level 20, so that's why we don't see that. Okay, so Kaeyoh will be able to get out the Ancestral Healing Dread. He realizes that there's only 2 of these heroes back to try to defend this. There's an entire boss, but only 3 heroes up for PPST. It's going to be close for this defense.
It's going to be hard to push on Wood 3, like you mentioned, but the boss is still near full health, and the core is good. They're going to get through this shield if they push in with it, but they're not feeling confident. Playing very passively. This isn't the wrong decision, but it's just definitely passive play.
It is, yeah. They're erring on the side of being passive in this situation. It's such a toss-up, and we've seen so many teams try to throw themselves at Tempo Storm's core, not quite be able to finish the game at that point, and then what does Tempo Storm do? They just march across the map. They have keeps down. They can do it.
Yeah, and I like this. Look at the gems.
Oh my goodness, 50 being collected right now from KingPlato, and he's turning them in.
All right, so just nice, clean decision making. 93% on this core of Tempo Storm, but the shields will regenerate. The health will not. There are no mules in this game for either side, and at this point in time, it's only 1 keep down for Tempo Storm, so it's pretty even, but these Web Weavers could really give PoolPlatos the advantage they want.
So I'd say the next big convincing team fight that happens for either side, that's going to decide this game. We're about 23 minutes in. All of these teams have hit that Storm talent tier, and this means, big spikes in power. We're going to see a lot more mobility. I think I see 5 total bolts of the Storm picked up on either between the 2 sides. So you're going to see, teleports all over the place. The action is going to get even crazier from here on out in these fights.
It's going to be intense, but we do see the Web Weavers make their way to the middle lane, being escorted by PoolPlato, some Tangos, Tempo Storm, responding to the best of their abilities. We do see the Storm Bolt connecting on Johanna right now, and we do see it's Tyrande looking for Lunar Flares, connecting once more.
Yeah, the timing, or I should say the positioning of both of these Web Weavers is a little bit unfortunate for PoolPlatos. You want to try to get some kind of a split push.
Right.
If you can have both the lanes pushed out at exactly the same position and then distract the enemy team by pushing hard with one, and then the Web Weaver will get some work done. As it is, I would imagine that Tempo Storm will be able to rotate very safely to the bottom lane if they so choose to clean up the remaining Web Weaver, and it will be minimal losses.
It will, but at this point in time, Tempo, they want to keep this keep alive. Pulling Tyrande in, the lockdown isn't there, but Starfall is used, so 1 heroic down. This is going to make PoolPlatos want to capitalize on this, but I don't know if they can.
Okay, we're at max stacks for Azmodan, so keep that in mind. There's no more pressure for Arthelon to just be able, throwing the gloves onto the creep fights. He can focus entirely on these team fights, and we've seen the impact that they have. And it's, it's all about, can they catch up to the positioning? Sometimes we're seeing him flank from, safely on other sides of the wall, which is really, really smart.
I like this positioning here. PoolPlatos is going to try to initiate them. Soldier is a bit by himself, rotating down from the bottom lane, realizing this is too risky.
Yeah, I think they expected a couple of the members of Tempo Storm to rotate in through that vent side. That's why we saw the roots thrown out in that particular spot. They will be able to grab themselves a bruiser camp just to try to put a little bit more pressure on, but this isn't going to be something I would imagine that will net them a keep.
Yeah, definitely not enough pressure there, especially because the Globe took out nearly half their health pool already. Let's take a look at the takedowns. 20-6 in favor of PoolPlato. They've really had the superior team fight, but look at the damage done by the Globe.
You say 20-6, but all it comes down to at this point, Jake, is the next team fight.
Yeah.
That's the one that really matters. Tempo Storm has been able to stall long enough to get to this late game, and it's down to either side. Well, there's the bolts we were talking about, not by Zuna, but by Prismaticism at this point. The aggressive play, has he taken too much damage? The ice block is on point.
Yeah, the ice block there in Tranquility was used before the Wheeling Arrow connected, and that has been expended at this point in time. The heroics used across each side, but the general of hell pushing with the catapults in the top lane is a bit of a distraction. If Tempo Storm can draw this fight out without taking heavy losses, this is a favorable position for them.
Yeah, we can see those shields are starting to drop, and it looks like Creep Wave has spawned and might be starting to deal with those catapults, but it is something they have to keep an eye on, and that's why we're not seeing that super aggressive play right now from PPST.
Yeah, Tempo Storm realizes they need to clean this up. They're pushing the lanes out to the best of their ability. This might buy enough time for them to try to get some gems turned in on the table. Looks like Johanna's going towards that mercenary camp, the bruiser camp. If the team isn't here, yes, okay, they're making their way on over.
Each team looking to take the aggressive camp out from underneath the opposing side. Is this a bit much for Tempo Storm? If they overstep their bounds, those globes, they do so much damage.
Yeah, Roots there just, as a safety net, making sure no one can pass through that lane, buying them some time. Bruisers, in fact, were stolen. And those globes continuing to pressure not only the heroes, but now the structures now that they've pushed forward.
Okay, what are they going to be able to do with this? I said that a bruiser camp before shouldn't be able to net either team a keep, but they are Tempo Storm looking to make a fool out of me at this point. They are putting the aggression in.
Yeah, they really are pushing on forward. I love this Asmodee play, though. This style really speaks to Tempo Storm. They're coming in the late game with this additional power, and they're starting to push back. One keep has fallen on the side of their base, and they've got 2 down, pressuring the final keep of Plato.
I can almost guarantee you right now, PPST, they're just hectically arguing over comms. Is this going to be enough? No. Okay, we did see the real quick.
Wow!
That is
Wailing
huge.
Arrow in the Condemn pulling in will take out Jaina. Storm Shield and Tranquility pop at an instant to try to keep the rest of the team alive, and it's doing a good job. But Tempo Storm need to get that Ancestral. It will connect on Johanna this time around, and they can just regroup and continue to push on in.
That might actually net them a keep. That is their big damage dealer that was taken out during that fight. Wasn't quite able to get the ice block off in time. That is 2 heroes that just got caught in the maw.
Yeah, and that's one of their healers in there, and they're locking him down. It's going to be Dreadnaught falling on Rhaegar. The keep is going to end up going down very soon, but Tempo Storm, they're not going to be able to end the game quite here.
Yeah, Zagara also fell in that, so threw down the maw, was able to trade out for their soul support on Tempo Storm's side. Was it worth it? It does buy them some time, but I think that keep, yeah, is going to go down. All right.
What a game. 3 keeps down on the side of Plato. Only the top keep has fallen for Tempo Storm, but the boss is up and Tempo is there contesting it. This is an incredibly risky play, Kubi.
Well, they have only 3 heroes to contest it with. They don't have a lot of damage. Actually, a very, very little damage between Zagara and Jaina being taken out. How do they contest this?
I guess that's true. The Sentinel will reveal that this is happening, and they're actually considering backing on up here. Kaeyoh in the front line, Murden right around the back. Soldier is so very low. If he does end up falling in battle, the boss, one more smack, the Dwarf toss in, he will end up falling, trying to steal it, but no, the Glove of Annihilation will trade out Murden. Boss successfully captured by Tempo Storm. They need to retreat.
Okay, but Arthelon is getting sort of left behind. He is able to bolt over the wall to safety, so they traded out their warriors at that point in time. They weren't able to steal the boss. They couldn't get the remaining members of Plato Tango over to the boss to try to occupy that space to contest it.
The promoted catapults hit so hard. The shields have been dissipated at this point in time. The boss is making its way down, but they're focusing it nicely. They need to just continue to stay on this boss. This will just allow Tempo to do whatever they want. What do they want to do, Kubi?
Yeah, they want to end.
Yep. They want to end
in.
the series because they're scared. They know if they have to take more team fights, they could very easily lose this game, and they want to try to end it right here.
Yeah, they have 20 seconds before Murden is back up, and Johanna also out of the picture, but the damage is going to be there, and it looks as though they will have enough damage. They are going to be able to take out Zagara once more.
All right, but that's going to be game 2, going the way of Tempo Storm, having a 2-0 victory over Plato's some Tangos. They managed to clutch it back in the late game with just the superior rotations and damage control, having that farmed up Asmodee.
Yeah, so many things came down to the boss and time again. It was just such a key focal point for putting the aggression on. Jester, what do you think? There were a lot of momentum shifts in that game.
That game was really hard to read. Like earlier on, again, we always saw that big aggression from Plato some Tangos, like we were talking about. You got to try to disrupt that Asmodee stacking game and kill takedown after takedown after takedown, like 8, 9, 10, 0 at that point. They got their heroics first as well. But, there came a point where I really do think that they should have been able to end the game, and they didn't. And of course, the late game, once more, of Tempo Storm did shine through. And we're going to actually take a look at one of those later moments towards the end of it that kind of set all this up. Because not only did we have a big team fight in and around this area, but this led us into that game-winning boss push. So earlier on, you saw Tempo Storm here on the left-hand side. They were pushing in. There was a lot of heroics actually already spent by this point as well. So both sides a little bit lower on ammunition. We did break up, and we looked for a re-engage. As you can see right here, we got another water elemental. And this is a big thing because they're trying to take down the healer right there. Well, you see Dread, and actually I think that's Sylvanas right there. And this is a big opportunity. They said, all right, we can do this. We're going to push forward, and we're going to try to take down Zuna. Zuna, time and again, was a big target. So, of course, what do? We get the heals, which you can see. He's going to back up, but then you see the big counterattack, and as we advance it forward, we're going to see pretty much exactly that. So big damage, Zuna's going to go backwards. Big damage, that was an orb. If you took a look right here, big orb, right? Ooh. There was a big orb. Well,
ooh,
yeah.
Right around
the spotlight.
The spotlight. There was an orb right there, and look at these health. Ooh, I can get 2 of those. Cool. But look at the health bars in and around that area, and guess what's about to be coming down from that Sylvanas? The squiggly line of doom.
Yes.
And that's the Wailing Arrow. That Wailing Arrow right here on top of the Asmodee. You're not going to see that Jaina anymore. This set us up not only with the one takedown, forced out the Avatar right there, and the Tranquility as well. Everything is now out of the bag. This was a big opportunity right there for PlayTo to try to grab that return kill. They couldn't do it. Tempo Storm once again persevered, and then they went for a boss. And that was game.
Yeah, there's a lot of chain of events that happened because of that fight. They were able to lead a lot of takedowns into one, and it just seemed like PlayTo's never quite had their full roster up and alive anytime past that one critical team fight.
But at the end of the day, I really have to hand it to PlayTo some Tangos for their incredible early game. Going up against Tempo, really making Tempo play incredibly safe, forcing them back, taking a massive lead in terms of the takedowns in both games on very different maps.
If there's anything to take away from this game, it's not about the takedowns. It's about the objectives, it's about the gameplay, it's about persevering to your comp. We saw early aggression, and PlayTo some Tangos, I think, they kind of missed their opportunity to capitalize on that for a win. Tempo Storm waited it out, they stacked up the orbs, and by the end of it, it was just way too much damage to deal with.
There are a lot of different win conditions in Heroes of the Storm. Tempo Storm really proving that, taking the objectives and having that strong late game, able to stall the game out long enough to get to that point. So kudos to them for taking that 2-0 victory over PlayTo some Tangos.
And we actually have a remote interview set up with Tempo Storm Arthelon. What is up, my friend? Congratulations on your win in game in your first match of the day.
Thank you.
So, walk us through that. You guys are down, you're behind, they've got a massive lead in takedowns going to that game. They hit 13 first, 16 first, 10, you name it. What is the mentality of the team?
It was a little bit scary, but in the end we only worried about stacks and we got max stacks, so that really helped with the team fights at the end there.
So for an aspiring Asmodan player, there's a team fight happening, all 10 players on the battlefield duking it out. Do you prioritize the minions with the Globe of Annihilation to just empower it, or do you go for the takedowns if you are able to?
It really depends on how many minions are top or bottom or wherever you're not fighting at, or if you're actually doing an actual team fight. So if nothing's happening, you just queue somewhere else, but if there's a team fight happening, you definitely want to queue the other team.
Okay, always prioritize that. How crucial is that strategy to just kind of mitigating damage, staying backline? Is it good to try to draft Asmodan with a mule to keep your structures alive? What do you guys think in these kind of late game compositions?
Well, if you have Asmo, you definitely need some characters to help him stack. Because if you don't have that, then he'll never get a good queue rolling in the game. Defensive style works because, with Asmo, he's always late game, so... But aggressive style works too, just because you're always clearing the minion hits, so...
All right, well, you guys have just advanced to the winners semifinals. Who are you most worried about in this tournament? I know you guys are the reigning champs at this point in time, but who's on your radar?
Just Maelstrom. Always.
Just Maelstrom. All right, Arthelon, well, good luck to the rest of the team in this tournament. We'll be watching your games. Can't wait to see the rest of it. Take care.
Thank you.
Arthelon, man, he's got those globes. Ben Jester, you've got the bracketology. Let's get an update on what's going on.
All right, so we looked at this a little bit earlier there, guys. So as we go into a lot of these matches, we're right now in the upper bracket. So from there, you do have 2 lifelines. So if we see, this is the first game of the day, and we just finished it out. Tempo Storm will be moving on in the upper bracket, but we're not saying goodbye to PlayTo some Tangos yet. They will be coming down here into the lower bracket and are going to be awaiting their opponents to be determined a little bit later, because as we go through all of these games, of course, the winners will move on in the front, and those that unfortunately were not able to win will just continue into the lower. And so we will have at least one more game set with PlayTo some Tangos a little bit later on.
Speaking of winners moving on, we're going to see what those matches are going to be and who is looking to advance. So following this match that we just saw, we are going to have Goon Squad up against Cloud9 Vortex, and following that, we're going to have Cognitive versus Complexity. I think that's going to be a really, really exciting game. And our third match is going to be Tuark versus Cloud9 Maelstrom. So you guys can see from match 1, we just finished it out. That's where we're going to be heading the next couple of hours.
But Goon Squad versus Vortex, that's what's next on the menu, and I'm excited because we mentioned Goon Squad, Canada. That's the homeland for you.
Yep,
wow.
Right here.
Look at that.
Right
so
here.
proud.
So is there bias? I have to ask.
No.
Well, you're the caster. I'm the analyst.
Fair enough.
I will analyze whoever wins. Yes. So no bias for me.
He's impartial.
Keep it good. Keep it good, sir.
Excellent. All right, guys. Well, we're going to set up Goon Squad versus Cloud9 Vortex as fast as we can. We'll be back in just a few minutes, so stay with us.